is quite on course, and we also thank you, Your Excellency, because one other program that was a really serious program was on shortage of teachers, and your administration, as of now, we have 56,000 teachers, and each and everything is going on, running is going on, Your Excellency, in our junior secondary schools, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, we all know that the provision of quality and effective education at any level requires proper policy and legal framework, and the primary mandate of this team was actually to undertake a thorough review on the policy and the legal framework, which they have done, Your Excellency, and it is our hope that that will be able to assist in enhancing and improving our education sector. Finally, Your Excellency, the other areas which have come from this team, we also thank you because through your support and guidance, we want to confirm that we are on the right course. You did launch the university funding system, the new funding model, on the 3rd of May, and we are on course, Your Excellency, because we are admitting the students who are now coming in September, and that particular system is in place, and it will apply when we come to September, sir. The CDAC, which had been disbanded, as again recommended by this particular team, through your guidance, we have been able to reconstitute the same, and in our Tibetan institutions, we think that we should be able to get it right, Your Excellency, and we assure you, as the implementing ministry, that we will work constantly and consistently to ensure that we implement each and every aspect as recommended in the Presidential Working Party, Your Excellency, and have a very competent and capable team. We will also be able to incorporate other members who were in the Presidential Working Party to ensure that each and every aspect is properly implemented, Your Excellency. With those many remarks, Your Excellency, I now want to recognize the members of Parliament who are here. Kindly, you can stand up. My chairman of the Education Committee is here with us in the Senate. Thank you. My member in the Education Committee is also here. My member in the Education Committee in National Assembly, Honorable Julius Mary, is also here with us. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, with those remarks, now I want to invite the chairperson, Professor Raphael Munabu, to make a remark and also to give over the report to you, sir. Professor Raphael.
Your Excellency, this is a very special occasion. Eh? Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, good friend of mine, the Deputy President, the Cabinet Secretaries who are present here with us, the PSs, there are very many, agencies, education agency, leaders who are here. I see VCs here, and most important, members of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform. Today is a milestone day. It is not the end of the running. It's not the last mile. Today is really a milestone because, Your Excellency, we are sharing with you a report that is very unique, a report that touches on milestones of transformative education for sustainable development. Your Excellency, it was very visionary the way this working party was constituted. The working party constituted or contained was involved a lot of very eminent educationists in this country. And, Your Excellency, the terms of reference were very clear, were very focused, and when we sat down, and the team, by the way, had very interesting people. I was just doing some study quietly, and I discovered if you take demographics, it had some retired professors, some professors who are still working, and also some people who are just getting into the education system. So it was very comprehensive the way it was constituted, very wise. Your Excellency, the terms of reference were very clear. We were looking at the concerns of the ordinary mwananchi in Kenya, concerns about education, at all levels of education, not only CBC, not only universities, but also issues to do with knowledge-driven economies. We looked at issues, for example, Your Excellency, of engagement of learners with communities and so forth. And this was very important. Your Excellency, and this has been stated, and we may keep on repeating it, but please let us be patient, because it was very innovative for us. The engagement, what was so important was the engagement with the stakeholders throughout the country. I think this was the most engaging interaction with stakeholders. And Your Excellency, I can assure you, and I wish I can play a clip, if all of you can allow, just a small clip on what wananchi were telling us, what wananchi were saying. And I can tell you the passion that the ordinary mwananchi had with education, on education, the passion that our learners had, starting from ECDs all the way to primary, university, and so on. That passion is very unique. It really reflects the realization and the acceptance of the fact that moving forward as a country, driving our economy forward, really we need to have a robust education system. And by the way, even the passion that I saw with teachers everywhere, there were issues, teachers and so on, people would raise issues, but by the end of the day, you could see the passion that, yes, we are the teachers, we are important, etc., etc. So, Your Excellency, before I hand over the report, if you can just allow that we spend about 5 minutes going through, it is okay? Yeah, I've got permission now. So, oh, so we don't? Okay. You know, one of the things that we have learned with education is that learning never stops. So we keep on learning as we move on. So this is a clip, and apparently it has been seen before, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Let me tell you one or two things which are very unique with our report. The report, Your Excellency, also includes an implementation matrix, and it has time frames. And that to us is extremely important. And we are giving the time frames in which these need to be implemented, these recommendations. It is very important. Your Excellency, just 2 or 3 prayers that we have, really to enable these recommendations to move forward. Some of them have already been implemented. I think it is very important to have an advisory committee, a Ministry of Education reform, implementation, education reform, implementation advisory committee. And that committee should monitor and evaluate how the recommendations are being implemented and make appropriate recommendations on the way forward. That is extremely important. That is one prayer. The other prayer, Your Excellency, has to do with when one is carrying out, especially the recommendations on amending laws, changing laws, developing other laws, and so on. I tell you, it is extremely important to be all-inclusive. And Parliament is so critical. My brother, it is so important that some of the recommendations that we are making with regard to laws, changes, modification, and so on and so forth, really, Parliament will need to play a very major role. And that one is something that we cannot ignore. It's extremely important. All countries that have developed and advanced have said education will drive our country forward. You know, one of the things, and this is just a prayer, is we need to have a way in which on an annual basis we have a special day for Kenya National Education Revival Day, where, Your Excellency, we celebrate distinguished students, distinguished lecturers, distinguished teachers, and so forth. A whole day where we are celebrating and we are looking and asking ourselves, have we reached the milestones that we need as we move forward? So this is a prayer we are sharing with you so that you can reflect on it. But really, a Kenya Education Revival Day annually, where everywhere, from everywhere and so on, we are talking about education, education, education. That to me is extremely important, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, we have produced the report. And the report has a lot of recommendations, but some of them have already been implemented. And we are very delighted as a team that even some of the recommendations that we have given have already been implemented, or they are in the planning stage. Your Excellency, the team that we have here, especially those ones in the 3rd floor, 4th floor, and a few in the 5th floor of their age, they are there and they will remain available to really do what they can to ensure that the recommendations are implemented. If you don't mind, and let me just recognize, we worked as a team, but we had committees. And one of the most hard-working committee was a committee that was, I don't know, Kenya, what you people were calling it. What was the name of the committee? It was called the Research Committee, but it mutated and became the one guiding the coordination and production of the report. So we really appreciate. Your Excellency, by the way, we also appreciate a lot of entities. If we had not been inducted as a working party by the Deputy President, and I still remember the date, 12th of October last year, and the support that we continue to receive from him and the guidance, I think we wouldn't have reached where we reached. If it wasn't the support that we received from the Cabinet Secretary, and he periodically would request us and say, what support do you need, what help do you need, and so on, we would not be where we are. If it wasn't for the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and other agencies and so on, I think we need to appreciate that we have received a lot of support and a lot of commitment from our colleagues. If you don't mind, Your Excellency, I will come where you are so that I can hand over the report. very delighted to deliver our report to you.
Okay.
I will take it easy. I will bring. So I will not worry. I will get copies.
Okay.
Okay. I'm very passionate. Encouragement he gave us. So now, this is the product. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. For implementation.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Your Excellency, sir, it is now my distinct honor and a privilege to invite His Excellency the Deputy President, who has been with us through this journey from the very beginning, to make his remarks, and I invite you, sir. Your Excellency the Deputy President. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, our CS for Education, Ezekiel Machogu, and our PSs, the Chairman of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, and all the people who worked around you. Good afternoon. Your Excellency, it's been a long journey. When you went around the country, before your ascendancy to the office that you hold, you had economic forums, and you listened to the people of Kenya. And wherever you went, they told you the challenges they had in implementation of the CBC. They told you of the challenges they were having in financing university education. Your Excellency, you gave an undertaking to the people of Kenya that if they gave you the mandate to assume the leadership of this country, you would initiate reforms in the educational sector. And being the Democrat you are, you decided to form the Presidential Working Party on Educational Reforms to go and listen to the people of Kenya and come up with appropriate recommendations. Your Excellency, this team has worked very hard, and we want to thank you because you have been available to receive interim reports from them and guide them. I want Your Excellency to thank this team for their commitment and sacrifice. In the beginning, they had many challenges. They went without allowances. They went without any support, but they sacrificed out of patriotism and their love for the Kenyan children. I really want to say thank you to this team. Finally, Your Excellency, I want to confirm from where I sit, as I assist you in the management of the affairs of this country, to commend the CS Education for providing leadership in the educational sector and for always being available to all the stakeholders in the educational sector. And for the first time, being the largest ministry in the country in terms of the budgetary requirement, there is a lot of synergy in the educational sector because of good leadership that is based on continuous consultation and engagement with all the stakeholders. So, Your Excellency, I want to assure you that this team has done a good job, and I'm sure that the recommendations they will come up with, if they are implemented, it will sort out the many challenges that we have had in the education sector. Finally, it's always my pleasure to stay with the professors. Unajua masomo yangu iko chini kidogo. So there was a process in biology called osmosis. So when you sit with the people ambaye wamesoma sana, something you can get into you and you feel a bit scholarly. So I'm always happy to engage with these professors, and since I started engaging with them, even my language has improved, my way of thinking, and it's always my pleasure. With those very many remarks, please be standing and assist me to usher in the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Mr. President.
Asante sana, Bwana Deputy President. Let's take our seats. Thank you very much. Mr. Deputy President, Minister Machogu, the PSS President, the Chair of this great Presidential Working Party on Education, Professor Munavu, who was actually my teacher, and I am very proud of him. He taught me in Chiromo. The leadership and the membership of this Presidential Working Party, good afternoon. I welcome you back again to these grounds. We've had many meetings with you in different configurations. You've had many meetings with my Council of Economic Advisors, and today is that great day that we celebrate a job very well done. I am a very proud person today that finally we have a report that speaks to the most important component of what defines Kenya. We may not have many things as a country. We may not be endowed with many natural resources, but for sure we have one that is greater and worthier than any other resource, and that is our human capital, the people of Kenya. I am very proud that today a resource that we have continuously made investments in as a nation, we continuously work on it to make it better, to sharpen it, to make it much more rewarding. And as we all know, the last election was informed by a very animated debate about our education system. More importantly, about CBC, about what was happening in our TVETs, about what was happening in our universities. We are all aware that there was a big debate about the propriety of the education system we were rolling out, what was going to happen to our children, whether we had done or made the right decisions. I am very happy today that this great team of professors, of educationists, and other Kenyans, including the clergy, have joined forces, and they have settled all the concerns that we had in our education sector. You deserve, I wish there were other people here to clap for you. So I think myself and Rigiji and those who are not members, we are going to clap for you. You have done a really good job. And I am very proud of this team that creatively, in an innovative way, you went through the motions. It was not easy. There were difficult decisions to be made along the way. You came back to check whether we were aligned, whether we were moving in the right direction. And I am very happy that today the country is no longer restive about CBC, because we have addressed all the concerns around what will happen to our children. All parents, all Kenyans are very particular, very emotive, if I may say, about their children and what happens to their children. And therefore, it was necessary for us to settle the subject of the education of our children early. And we didn't even have to wait for the full report. I think we kept on implementing the report even as, we were agreeing on the issues. And I want to thank each and every member of this great team for your contribution, for your professionalism, for the advice you brought on board, the knowledge you brought on board, and that eventually gave us the right decisions that puts us today on a pedestal to go in the right direction. This is because historically the people of Kenya have taken keen interest in education, appreciating it as the ultimate equalizer, facilitator of socio-economic mobility, driver of economic growth, the guarantor of democracy, liberty, and key to greater well-being of humanity. The same holds true today with even stronger resonance. The mystery of our country's impressive achievements and performance in many sectors, without the endowments traditionally associated with bright prospects, is down to only one factor. As I have said, our human capital, the people of Kenya, is the difference that has made Kenya what it is. We have succeeded in maintaining a certain quality and character of our citizens by ensuring nearly universal access to education. And it is the very primary reason why we continuously make sure that there is, to the best ability that we can as a nation, there is adequate resources for the education of our children. And even this year's budget speaks to it. 30%, 29 point something percent of our budget this year is going to education. 628 billion shillings is going to education. And we made it deliberate because we needed to sort out many things. We needed to sort out the pupil-teacher ratio, student-teacher ratio. We needed to sort out our TVETs. We needed to sort out the debts that were destroying our universities. I am very happy that we now have a credible plan on how we are going to deal with this. As a result of the investments that we continue to make in education, we've managed to hire, through the Teacher Service Commission, 56,000 teachers in the last 8 months, the highest ever in the history of Kenya. By God's grace, we have a plan to continue until we close the gap, because we identified that there was a gap of close to 110,000 teachers. And it was my commitment during the campaigns that we would do this within 2 years. I am hopeful that we will be as near as 100%, as near as possible to 100% in 2 years, so that our children, when they go to school, they will find teachers to teach them. Amongst the many other things that we are working on, you all remember that we also said that education must be inclusive. We must never leave any child behind. We're all aware that there are still many more of our children who are not in school for various reasons, cultural reasons, some other reasons. One of the most pressing is because sometimes there is no food at home and kids cannot go to school. And that is the reason why this year I did instruct the ministry that we want to increase the number of students under our school feeding program from 1.6 million to 4 million. And I am very happy that we have provided resources to increase our students under the school feeding program so that students can go to school and find a meal. And we have seen huge difference. Here in Dagoretti, when we rolled out that program, the numbers of students in our school increased by 150%. It tells you there are many children who are not in school because of the challenge of food. I am very happy that counties are coming on board to work with us on the school feeding program, because in our manifesto we agreed that any county that's going to agree to partner with us for every shilling they put in the school feeding program, we are going to match it by a shilling by national government. I want to congratulate our county governments that have agreed to partner with us to get our children who are not in school to come to school by participating in our school feeding program. Case in point is Nairobi County. I must congratulate the governor of Nairobi County for agreeing to work with us. I have been in conversation with Machogu, CS Machogu, and your PS, with the county government of Nairobi. And finally, we have a framework that has been approved by the Attorney General for us to work together to make sure that many kids, especially in our informal settlements in Nairobi, are not in school. I have also undertaken that the national government is going to provide additional resources for us to build an extra 5,000 classrooms in Nairobi County, because many kids in Nairobi County are not in school because there are no adequate school infrastructure. So we are going to continue to invest in that direction. But so that you just know that in our midst we also have people who are not very good. Some fellow went to court to stop us feeding hungry children. Just imagine, that he went to court to stop the school feeding program that gives opportunity for people, children from poor families who cannot afford a meal, to find a meal in school. And somebody has the temerity and the moral fiber to go to court to stop it. Luckily for us, and unluckily for them, they found some humane people in court who told them who told them that you cannot stop hungry children from having a meal. That is the kind of society we want to build, where we can deal firmly and decisively with people, heartless people. Let me also say, we are blessed with a well-educated, informed, and engaged citizenry who do not only comprise a phenomenal human capital, they are freedom-loving champions of democracy, innovation, and a focused, results-oriented work ethic. We have, as one person in the Bible said, we have neither gold nor silver, but we have something much worthier: free, capable citizens who love their country and work hard every day to drive our progress. And I'm very proud to be the team leader of that great nation. The government recognizes education as central to our human capital development. We focus on providing inclusive, equitable, relevant, quality education to our children at all the 3 levels of education. We aim not only to facilitate the growth and development of our children, but also the capacity of graduates to rise to the highest echelons of their careers and to contribute to a more prosperous and equitable society. I recognize that we have achieved numerous important milestones in the education sector, including increased access, greater gender parity, improved infrastructure, and enhanced capitation. The results are undeniable, yet at the same time, our education system remains highly unequal and has not lived up to its promise to level the socio-economic playing field for all Kenyan families and their children. The bottom-up economic transformation agenda sets our plan for rapid economic growth on the foundation of significantly enhanced productivity of our human capital. Our foremost priority is to generate jobs for the millions of Kenyans that are currently without them and make sure that these jobs pay enough to cover daily subsistence as well as savings for future investments. I know that in the commitments that we made, I have been speaking to the stakeholders in this sector, especially in the Higher Education Loans Board, on the gaps that still exist. I know there are gaps that still exist in fully funding our program. And I want to commit to the education stakeholders that the government of Kenya is going to provide sufficient resources to close all the funding gaps. We will provide the resources to make sure that the funding model that we launched the other day for both our TVETs, colleges, and also universities is fully implemented. I have made a commitment because it is the only resource that we have and we are sure about is the human capital. And therefore, whatever it takes, we cannot allow our universities to slip back into debt. We cannot allow our students in TVET not to acquire the skills and competencies that we have set out in our curriculum. We will work consistently. So I am aware that during the budget, there are some gaps that were not properly addressed, but they will. In fact, if there will be a reason for a supplementary budget, that will be one of them, so that we can close all the gaps. I want to assure our universities and our TVETs that we will make sure that the new funding model that is centered around the student, that going into the future, we will not be giving grants to universities, we will be giving scholarships to students going to universities, so that we can account for the education of every student, and so that we can also desegregate which student requires help more than the other. The old funding model treated children from vulnerable backgrounds the same as children who came from those of us who can pay for academies. And the results were disastrous. I am very happy that today we can fully fund 100%, close to 45,000 students from vulnerable families. That all of them in our universities, that the children that come from vulnerable backgrounds can be sure that they will go to university and they will not drop out, because the government of Kenya will ensure that they have 100% scholarship. That assurance, that commitment is what is going to create equity in our midst. The rest of us, myself, my deputy here, this good man, and all these people sitting here, these people, nyinyi mnaweza kujitetea hapo kidogo kidogo namna hii. Lakini wale watu wako kwa bottom huko, tafadhali mkubali hawa tuwapatie msukumo. That's how we are going to create an even and an equal, and we are going to create equity in our country. I have said, and let me say it here because this is the correct forum, that to get value from the huge investment we are making in education, if we are investing 630 billion in education, surely we must account for it. We must have a plan on when these people we have invested 630 billion every year, when they get out of the pipeline, when they come out of school, when they come out of college, when they come out of university, what happens to them? It will be irresponsible, maybe reckless for us not to think about what happens to our children when they come out of college. And that is the reason this year we are intentional, we are deliberate on having a plan on how to create jobs. In my boardroom here, I have spent inordinate hours being granular about how many jobs we are going to create, under which program, on which intervention, on which projects, because it is the responsible thing to do. If we are going to invest 630 billion, if we are going to invest 30% of our budget in educating our young people, we must be deliberate on investing in the areas that will create opportunities for them to find work so that their education, their skills, the competencies they have acquired can be meaningful to them, to society, and we can keep a good account of the use of our hard-earned taxes. It is the reason we have the housing plan. It is the reason we have the digital superhighway plan, complete with the hotspot, 25,000 hotspots, complete with the 1,450 ICT hubs. We are now working with a framework on, I have already told the ministry to work with our county governments so that every vocational training center that is working under the counties is brought on board the digital technology ecosystem so that we can not only provide training, we can begin to walk the talk on digital jobs and also digital commerce. So that is the whole ecosystem of what we are doing. I am saying this in this education forum because on one end is the money we are investing in education. On the other end is the plan to make sure that the money we invest, we get value for it by making sure that the human capital we are training meaningfully contributes to the country and justifies the huge investment we are making. Let me say equally important for us is the question of equity and access to education opportunities. And I have spoken about equity in many ways, making sure that all the children get education, making sure that the vulnerable who do not have food come to school because we can provide, making sure that the children from vulnerable families have affirmative action in making sure that they get through university education or even in our TVET institutions. And I am very happy that this plan gives us the framework to achieve that. And that is why I am very proud of what you people have done. You've really done very well. These imperatives, as well as others, needs inspired us to engage with Kenyans, as I told you, throughout the country, and to consult education and human capital development experts in designing our commitments in the education chapter of the Kenya Kwanza Plan. And I am very happy that we are well on course in keeping our commitment on matters education and ensuring that every child in Kenya has an opportunity to be their best. Among our commitments were government-funded in-service training, bridging the teacher shortage within 2 years, reviewing the current system of academic progression, improving the capacity of our day secondary schools, reviewing the tertiary education funding framework for all institutions, building and equipping TVET institutions in the remaining 52 constituencies, establishing the National Open University, providing a year-long paid internship program for all tertiary learners, significantly increasing funding for innovation, research, and development, and enhancing the funding available for school feeding program. So on all those aspects, I think we are well on course. I just concluded last week a conversation on matters of internship, and as I said earlier in the day, we're going to build capacity around internship. We have worked with the private sector. I am very happy that the private sector have agreed to partner with us, and we are going to provide policy interventions and incentives to make sure that the private sector can engage at least 50,000 young people who graduate from college and TVET every year in internships that are paid for and that the government of Kenya is going to support by policy to make sure that that actually happens. I'm also very happy that we have also concluded the process of putting together the Kenya National Open University of Kenya. And this week, I will be granting charter to the National Open University of Kenya. It's a huge milestone. It's something that I worked on when I was the Minister for Higher Education before I was interrupted. But I am very happy that I came to conclude that process, and I want to thank Machogu and team for working around the clock, making sure that all the courses have now been developed, The infrastructure has been put in place, and we will be in concert this week to grant charter to the university that will begin to admit students in September. It's quite a milestone, and I am really happy that we can keep this promise as well that was in our manifesto, amongst all the other commitments that we intend to keep. And this team has been phenomenally useful in assisting us to conclude that process. These commitments are fundamental by themselves, but also they are absolutely critical for the implementation of better, our bottom-up economic plan. As far as they are concerned, all these plans, time is of the essence. We now need to, as was said by the chair, Professor Munavu, the context is now how do we make sure that none falls through the cracks as we roll out the implementation. You remember that on my first day in office, I did appoint this presidential working party. It's not the first in Kenya. I'm sure it's not going to be the last, because our education has continuously gone through transformation, and to make sure that we keep it in state and up to date in the, with the requirements of our human capital requirements from industry and from elsewhere. And therefore, this report gives us new impetus in making our education better, much more focused, purpose-driven, and hopefully we are going to see the results shortly. Going by the periodic briefings that I got in the course of their work, the summary of the findings and recommendations, I am satisfied that the Working Party has used its time well, consulted thoroughly throughout the country and beyond, applied their expertise and technical capacity, and fully met their terms of reference. The evidence-based analysis of every material issue taken up in the report provides ample basis for further action, which must commence without delay. We now stand at the threshold of tremendous possibility for our nation. Before us is a strong case to transform our society and catalyze our economy by making necessary interventions in education to make it accessible, equitable, inclusive, and aligned with our aspirations to become a more open, democratic, prosperous nation of free and enlightened citizens. It is time to make education accessible all the way to the highest level, to anyone regardless of background, more fulfilling for both learners and tutors, more accommodating of their psychological needs, less examination-oriented, and more aligned with the aptitudes and aspirations of learners, and capable of imparting essential values, including national values and principles of good governance. The moment has come for us to usher in a new era where our education system appreciates that competitiveness and productivity depend on such values as innovation, which is nurtured by encouraging curiosity and imagination, and by allowing learners to explore their gifts and talents. The transformation of our national education system is now underway. These recommendations contained in the report of the Working Party shall be implemented not in the future, but beginning now. We must now direct our attention to the implementation of the recommendations set out in the report. The relevant ministries, departments, agencies must quickly familiarize themselves with the report and expeditiously work with all parties, including the Office of the Attorney General, including the Committee of Parliament, both in the National Assembly and Senate, to see to it that every piece of legislation, regulation required is in place to make sure that we don't lose time and we get full value for this tremendous report that has been worked on by these great people with a lot of expertise, a lot of passion, and a lot of commitment. There is a lot to be done in terms of policy, legislation, organizational, strategic, and administrative measures to actualize the recommendation. And I am clear that the ministry, with all the staff and all the other stakeholders, will be able to work on this. The Cabinet Secretary concerned, together with the Attorney General, must collaborate on the framework to make sure that the implementation of the CBC is rolled out as has been agreed. Quality assurance and standards is kept and managed and a proper framework established to actualize that. Teacher education and management, we've agreed with Nancy here. We've provided resources for promotion of teachers, making sure that we continuously motivate our teachers to be able to do their best. This year we have provided R1 billion for the promotion of teachers to make sure that we continuously move together and provide the best that we can. There are some laws that have been recommended, and I am happy that the two chairs are here. We're going to work with you to make sure that the necessary legislation is worked on, complete with bringing public participation on board to make sure that we all speak the same language with the public. We are also going to work together, as you are all aware, to make sure that technology, we leverage also on technology in the delivery of our education curriculum. I am very happy that technology is part and parcel now of our delivery of government services, and obviously it will be front and center in the delivery of our education. So all that is going to come together once we roll out the implementation metrics of the recommendations that have been given by this Presidential Working Party. I want to commit to you that I will lead the team that will make sure that the recommendations are implemented. My good deputy here will not sleep until it is done. And he knows what he needs to do. He just needs to speak the truth to everybody. Therefore, to all of you, let me say for sure, if there is one team that I have worked with very proudly and that has delivered beyond my expectation, it is this Presidential Working Party on education. You have been forthright, you have been clear. The professors who are here, the education professionals who are here, I can vouch that your credentials are genuine. Because we can see it in what has so far been achieved and in the recommendations that are here. And I promise you that we will not let you down. I know many reports come and they end up gathering dust in government offices. As you have seen our commitment, even before the reports were completed, we were already implementing. So we are walking a different trajectory. Maybe you can accuse us of implementing even when it is not fully baked. But at least it is better than them gathering dust in government offices. I think it's a new paradigm that we were implementing the recommendations as they were coming. So I think if there is any demonstration that we are committed and that we are persuaded that it's the right thing to do, I think you can pick it up from what we have done already. We have already implemented your recommendations on CBC. We have recommended, you have implemented your recommendations on the new education funding model. We are implementing your recommendations on what we should do with university education, on TVET education. And I promise you that whatever is outstanding here, with the same passion, with the same commitment, with the same speed, we are going to make sure that it is implemented. I have full confidence in the ministry leadership, the CS and the PSS and all the other senior officials, that they have what it takes to ensure that they implement these recommendations for the good of our children, for the good of our education system, for the good of our human capital, and for the good of our society and country. I also wish to appreciate all the development partners who have worked with us in this journey, including by providing technical and material support to the Presidential Working Party, our friends from the World Bank, our friends from development partners who have facilitated, supported in many ways for us to get here. Our thanks and appreciations to them, and we look forward to working with them going into the future in making sure that this program is fully implemented. So asanteni sana, nimefurahi for real. Nimefurahi sana kwamba if there is one thing, kama kuna jambo moja ambayo imenifurahisha sana, ni kwamba tumetatua matatizo ambayo yalikuweko kwa sekta hii ya elimu. Nyinyi mnajua wakati tulianza hapa, niliwaeleza ya kwamba hata mtoto wangu mimi ananiuliza maswali nyumbani. Na there is nothing as emotional as your child not being sure of whether you as a parent know what you're doing. You know, and now it comes down to be personal. You know, you forget the job you do as a professor or as a senior official in some place, but you now come down to being a parent. And when you are a parent, those questions can be very emotional. So it was very necessary. Ilikuwa ya muhimu sana tuweze kutatua jambo hili, maneno ya CBC, maneno ya walimu kupatikana shuleni. Sasa watoto wetu wa kusoma katika TVET, watoto wetu kusoma katika university. Hiyo ni maneno mzuri sana, na nimefurahi sana kwamba tatizo hili tumeweza kulitatua kwa pamoja. Na nimefurahi ya kwamba sote, watu wa kutoka pande zote, watu wa vyama tofauti, mirengo, sote tumeungana kuhakikisha kwamba watoto wetu wanapata masomo. Na naamini ya kwamba vile vile tumeungana tena kujua ya kwamba wakati tunaweka rasilimali zetu katika kusomesha watoto wa Kenya, vile vile ni lazima tuwe na mpango wakitoka shuleni, wakitoka college, wakitoka university, ni nini watafanya. Mimi nimefurahi tena mwaka huu tuko na mpango mzima, mpango kamili ya vile tutashughulikia ajira ya vijana wetu, nafasi za kazi, na vile vile mchango wao katika kuendesha taifa letu, mchango wao kwa uchumi, kukuza uchumi wa taifa letu la Kenya, na kutengeneza taifa letu liwe taifa bora kwetu sote kama wananchi wa Kenya. Profesa Munafu, mwalimu wangu, nakushukuru sana kwa sababu ya uongozi wako kwa kamati hii maalum kwa mambo ya elimu. Wale maprofesa mlio hapa, wale wote ambao ni education experts mlio hapa na wale wote mliotoa mchango wenu wa aina mbalimbali kuchangia katika kukamilisha ripoti hii na recommendations ama mapendekezo ambayo mmetoa. Nimewahakikishia ya kwamba mimi nitakuwa mstari wa mbele kuhakikisha ya kwamba mapendekezo yote yaliyopendekezwa tunayatimiza kwa manufaa ya watoto wetu, kwa manufaa ya jamii ya Wakenya na kwa manufaa ya taifa letu la Kenya, kwa sababu hatuna rasilimali nyingi kama taifa. Rasilimali tulio nayo ya muhimu ni hii ya human capital ama Wakenya wetu, na elimu ndio inatusaidia kuhakikisha ya kwamba taifa letu la Kenya, wafanyikazi na watu wote wa taifa letu la Kenya wako katika hali ambapo wanaweza kuchangia biashara, kuchangia kazi, kuchangia kutengeneza uchumi na kuendesha taifa letu la Kenya mbele. Mimi nawashukuru sana, nawatakia kila na heri katika majukumu yenu mengi mlio nayo. Najua wengi wenu mtarudi katika kazi zenu, tukiwahitaji katika awamu hiyo ingine ya implementation ama kutekeleza mpango huu. Tutawatafuta na najua ya kwamba mtapatikana, tuweze kushirikiana na kutimiza kabisa kazi hiyo mzuri ambayo imefanyika. Asante sana na Mungu awabariki. Thank you.